Welcome to Vigilant News for January 7th, 2022. My name is Justin, founder of Stillness in the Storm, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan DeLarme, founder of Underground Newswire. Ryan, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great, Justin. How you doing today?
Fabulous. Got a big round of news as always. Can't wait to deliver it.
Love to hear it.
So we got, let's see. Today we're going to be talking about the judge forcing the FDA on the Pfizer docs. So no, we don't have to wait 75 years now. God hopes anyway. We have Reid being canceled with Serve Your Tears, although I got a few leftist tears in here. Tim Pool was swatted. There was a Masonic arsonist. And there's another one I feel like.
Trump's big announcement.
That's right. Trump's big announcement. Thank you. Before we get started, don't forget to go to the description of this video. Check out our Stillness in the Storm donate page, stillnessinthestorm.com/donate. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We need all the help we get. We're getting shadow banned like crazy. That's part of the reason we're doing so much on Rumble these days. And we also still have an Ascent sponsor. We've got some awesome products coming out there. You can buy as much as you want on Ascent, get all 10% off your first order. And they have I believe it's a pine bark tincture that's extremely beneficial for lung issues, if you know what I'm getting at. So with that, let's go ahead and get into our first article today, which is prominent importance of judge ordering FDA to release Pfizer docs. You want to get into this one here?
Yes, sir. So we got a big win for transparency today. A federal judge in Texas on Thursday ordered the Food and Drug Administration to make public the data it relied on to license Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. So the data that they had to go through before approving it, basically, which if they could go through the data in however long it took them, they could take less than 75 years to release it, I think.
Yeah.
This is imposing a dramatically accelerated schedule that should result in the release of all information within about 8 months.
Wow.
That's roughly 75 years and a few months faster than the FDA had originally hoped. A Freedom of Information Act request by a group of doctors and scientists seeking an estimated 450,000 pages of material about the vaccine. The court concludes that the FOIA request is of paramount public importance, wrote the U.S. District Judge Mark Pittman in Fort Worth, who was appointed to the bench by former President Donald Trump in 2019. The FDA didn't dispute it had an obligation to make the information public, but argued its short-staffed FOIA office only had the bandwidth to review and release about 500 pages a month.
Please.
Hence the 75-year schedule for them.
Yeah.
While Pittman recognized the quote, unduly burdensome challenges that the FOIA request may present the FDA, in his 4-page order, he resoundingly rejected the agency's suggested schedule. Rather than producing 500 pages a month, the FDA's proposed timeline, he ordered the agency to turn over 55,000 pages a month. That means that all Pfizer's vaccine data should be public by the end of summer, rather than, say, the year 2097. Even if the FDA may not see it this way, I think Pittman did the agency and the country a big favor in expediting the document production. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, it reminds me of all the shenanigans that the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies have already tried to pull. Boy, there's so much to talk about here. First of all, there's a very little known aspect of, we might say, trade and commerce law that relates to 100-year leases and things like this, 70-year bankruptcy cycles, things like this. So I think part of the reason why they have these giant time periods is because often that's also the average lifespan of a person. So by the time this information finally makes it out into the public, the people who are affected by it are dead.
Yeah, that's what I was
basically.
Thinking, yeah.
So, as you can imagine, if you're trying to hide crimes against humanity and all sorts of things, then that's a big advantage for you. So good news that they're coming out. And one, last thing about that is I think it's ridiculous that FDA is trying to argue, well, we can't do this because we're short-staffed.
Well, I think if they can rush it out with potential dangers to the public, which we've kind of seen already, then they can rush to get the information out. But also at the same time, I don't know how it works. I imagine it's they probably have a separate FOIA office at the FDA, and they probably only have like a fraction of the staff they had testing the stuff to begin with. So I don't know how it all works, but I mean, looks like they're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some national defense or defense of national security interests, I believe that's the terminology, were related to this. But then you have to ask yourself, well, how do you define trade or national defense secrets? And, often it seems to correlate with trade secrets, that Pfizer has all these trade secrets that if they get revealed, then other drug companies could potentially grab them and then use them to their advantage and become more competitive for Pfizer. But, our laws in our country doesn't exist to be a cash cow for big pharma. And there's a reason why we, the people, are entitled to the truth and information, especially that affects us at a deep level, because we have a contractual right to receive what's called full disclosure. So,
amen, brother.
Yeah. Anyway, I could go off and off on this, but that's a good news story, I'd say. Hopefully, we could see a lot more information about this coming out. All right, so let's get into what might be some bad news for somebody, but good news for other people. A joy, we might say. Joy Reid, this beautiful human being right here, is unfortunately going to get canceled. She's going to lose her NBC show in the spring. Arguably one of the most radical liberals in the mainstream media could be on her way out. NBC host Joy Reid may no longer have a show on the network this spring following a round of reshuffling. News Cycle's media John Nicosa reported on Twitter that a Comcast source said Joy Reid will lose her 7 p.m. show in the next round of reshuffling. Now, does that mean that she's going to go away forever? Does that mean that they're taking her out because she's toxic? There's no clarity as to what's going on. But if you've had the pleasure, we'll say, the joy of watching Joy's show,
put it that way, I guess.
It's almost as joyful as walking over broken glass, we might say. But hey,
she's probably the worst culprit of stoking the racial divide in all of MSN.
Yeah, talk about race baiting. I mean, anyway, yeah. So a source at Comcast said Joy Reid will lose her 7 p.m. show in the next round of the reshuffling. I already read that. She does not have a showtime coming mid-spring or come mid-spring. The decision has been made. The only thing left is messaging on the move, which will be ratings, Nicosa tweeted. So in other words, that it's just there. It might be argued that the reason for the move is because her ratings took a dip or something to that effect.
They did, I hear. I think we reported on it after the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict and her, stoking the fires of animosity and anybody who was, going to fall for it. And then also how the lack of reporting on the Waukesha parade incident and so on. I think that's when she started to take a real dip.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is the way these guys work, is they push the line, they push the line, they push the line. And right as soon as you get up and you're like, I can't take anymore, then they're going to pull back a little bit. And they might even sacrifice or get rid of the people that pushed it to that point. So you feel like, oh, we've solved the problem, when they haven't actually at all. So
we'll just get another talking head in there.
Exactly. So not sure if we call that a victory, but at the very least, it shows that there is a line somewhere and potentially was crossed with Joy Reid. So what do we got next on the docket there, Ryan?
Next, we have an alleged arsonist arrested after 3 fires at 3 different Masonic lodges in the Metro Vancouver area. Interesting headline. So let's get into it. Vancouver police arrested a 42-year-old man suspected of arson in 3 fires at Masonic lodges in Metro Vancouver on Tuesday morning. The arrest came after an off-duty police officer driving past the Masonic Temple near Rupert Street and East 29th Avenue in Vancouver noticed a man walking away from the building as it burned. According to Vancouver Police Department, Constable Tanya Vicenton. Video taken by a bystander shows flames licking at the entrance to the temple as a man carries a red jerry can to the trunk of a black van. He is confronted by the off-duty officer. The man managed to get away, but was then arrested just before 10 a.m. in Burnaby near North Fraser Way and Marine Way, about 20-minute drive from the location. We got some pretty cool pictures here. I guess maybe cool is not the right word, but
revealing, maybe.
So here's a picture of North Vancouver, one of the 3 locations. This one I think got the worst of the 3. If you scroll down, you got another. Looks like this one is like not so bad at all, really.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd one down here. Look at that. This is
Oh
pretty
boy,
rad.
look at that. Is that one from the top? I think so.
Yeah, that might be, yeah. And then this last one down here, you can see that the doorway got a little charred, but the
Wow.
building seems to remain intact. And we got a little clip here. Might be worth watching.
Sure. So, put this puppy on. Fire being put out, ladies and gentlemen.
There it is. So yeah, upon arrival, there were heavy flames in the entranceway and the exterior of the building, the reporting officer said. Additional units were called to respond, and at least 26 firefighters were on the scene. Hannah Solis, a barista at the Waves Coffee on Mountain Highway, says she saw flames engulfing the lodge as she drove to work. As I got to work, the whole sky was filled with smoke, she said. I just did my best to keep it out of the store. So we said she saw at least 8 firefighters on the scene and that the road had been blocked off. Now, yeah, what do you think about this story?
Well, I mean, given how the Freemasons are known for their symbolism, we'll put it that way. I find this picture in particular, the one I've been focusing on here, pretty symbolic. I mean,
Oh yeah,
you know, the pillars are a really important part of Freemasonry. Now, is just before we get into any of this here, just because Freemasons use symbology doesn't mean that symbology is inherently evil. I know the Freemasons often get blamed for every problem the world over, and I would argue, certainly have been infiltrated by nefarious groups. As somebody who researches these kind of things.
oh yeah.
But the core aspect of Freemasonry is not necessarily evil, and the symbology is certainly evil. It's often derived from a lot of Christian symbology.
Arguably, a vast majority of Masons probably are just in it for brotherhood, etc. You know, I think the criminal element started when the mafia and other organized crime groups started using the cover of that Masonry provides to do their, dirty dealings.
That's right, exactly. So,
and not every Mason is hip to what's going on there. So.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know what the symbolic implication is. I'm not exactly sure why these things were even set on fire. And presumably we're going to hear something from the guy who was arrested, and possibly he will reveal his motivations. But, at the very least, it's one of these, what we might say, cosmic signs or heralds, that if the Freemasons are instrumental in the ushering in of a dark New World Order, then is this indicative of the fact that that New World Order is going to be coming to an end, and their influence in the world is going to be coming to an end, or that they're dying like the phoenix and will rise from the ashes anew in a better way?
Maybe it was done by the Masons to drum up support or
that's true.
Sympathy.
Exactly.
Who's to say?
We don't know for sure, but healthy speculation is always a good thing, I would argue. Awesome, great story.
So now we got an interesting story about what happened last night.
That's right. Yeah, we were watching some Tim Pool. I actually just was doing some of the news last night, looking for some news, and I saw that a guy that we follow somewhat regularly, it's not like we're like fangirls necessarily, but we watch his material now and then.
He's got some pretty good guests.
Yeah, he gets great guests. This is Tim Pool. You might have seen this beanie and gray t-shirt before. Yeah. He's got 1 million of them in his closet, so that's the legend goes. But he's a good guy. He's got a lot of interesting news. We've been posting his stuff on Stillness, and he was swatted yesterday. So let's get into this. If you're not
familiar with what that is, it's a practice, I think, that started around with like gamers, where they call it police on somebody who's streaming, and then the police show up while they're on camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a kind of prank, but it's a prank that could land you 20 years in federal prison. Yeah. So I wouldn't suggest doing it. Not to mention getting potentially people killed or property damaged. So here's that's basically it. This guy, he does podcasts, Joe Rogan kind of style podcasts every night, usually, 5 days a week anyway. And this is a little clip from his show yesterday. So let's take a listen.
7 pandemics, and there's only 4 cases of them that didn't result in a revolt or large-scale protest afterwards. And they actually announced a number of times.
The cops just walked in.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Should we? Yeah, that I.
So
I was looking at my notes and I was like,
did somebody swat you?
Yep, somebody swatted us.
did they
Someone
really?
swatted us?
Yep, somebody swatted us. So
How do you
that's
know?
what
How do you
that was.
know?
I have somebody texting me.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
Tim's gonna go
Wow.
take care of
So,
business.
yeah, look, just a police officer
Just stole
entered
it in.
here, looked around because it looks like someone swatted this live broadcast here.
Glad they didn't come in here busting, man.
I'm glad, yeah, man.
I mean, that's something that's extremely dangerous, extremely reckless, because SWAT incidences have led to a lot of innocent people
Little
dying.
death.
Dogs being shot, people thinking that their house is being raided by criminals defending themselves. So whoever did that and they're listening, like,
You shouldn't do it, is what he was about to say there. So that's the swatting. Just to some final comments on this. Swatting usually involves like the actual SWAT team storming into your house and often breaking down your door and asking you to get down on the ground, these kind of things. So it might not be a direct swatting, but it's effectively a swatting because the police showed up uninvited and went into this Tim's house.
Right.
So.
I'm pretty sure they live somewhere in West Virginia or Maryland that's semi-rural, and
Mhm.
maybe they don't have a full SWAT team or what. But yeah, it's not
Exactly.
like I saw my neighbor get swatted 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
I was like, that was not quite the same. It was a little more violent and loud. So
Okay.
I think they got off light.
Yeah, I'd say so. Still a little unnerving. If the cops just rolled in right now as we're doing the live stream, I'd be thrown off a little bit. Maybe
A
we'd
little
still
bit,
do it. Be
yeah.
like, breaking news, everybody. The police just showed up.
Pardon me, officer. Keep it down.
Yeah, keep it down, all right? We're trying to do a stream here. All right, so that's that. And then we got,
One last little
Yeah.
announcement. I believe it's the last thing we have to say
Mhm.
today. Trump's new social media app now has an official launch date. So it is one of the announcements that former President Trump, his supporters have been waiting for. And no, it's not, whether or not he's going to run for president, which is a fair assumption. But it's the game changing for the world of social media. The 45th president of the United States has announced that his media company, the Trump Media and Technology Group, or TMTG,
okay.
is going to launch his new social media app on President's Day, which is just a little
Nice. Yeah.
fun and games there from President Trump.
Forever the marketer.
Photos show that the app is going to be similar to Twitter in that it is set to have trending topics and the ability to follow other people. The app will launch 13 months after the former president was permanently banned from Twitter and banned indefinitely from Facebook. So it seems like with Rumble and a lot of these other platforms, they're building what is called parallel structures. And you hear the term mass psychosis thrown around a lot lately. And for those of us who study mass psychosis and the history of totalitarian regimes, typically the best way to fix that mass psychosis that is infecting the greater population is to create what they call parallel structures that offers, like in China, for example, you have the CCP, and then you also have these free presses from Hong Kong, trying to do a counter narrative, like the Epoch Times.
Right,
Like
right.
you have Shen Yun, and then whatever the Chinese CCP version of that is.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have YouTube, and then we have Rumble, and now we have Facebook, and then you got Getter or Gab, what have you. And now we will have Trump's very own version of Twitter, is what it seems to be.
Right, and this is pretty important, I'd say, to combating, totalitarianism.
Definitely, yeah. Because it seems like Twitter was everyone's favorite spot to, it's like a giant digital high school lunchroom for the whole world. And now Trump is going to launch his own.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, these big tech companies you got to hand it to them. They were good at drawing people in, and now, I mean, it seems crazy to think about, but if I went back in time, even back to the 90s, and told everybody that, hey, you wouldn't be able to communicate with anybody unless it was through a big mega tech company and they could censor you anytime you want, they'd be like, what are you, some kind of crazy conspiracy theorist?
Bet your britches.
Now we're living in that world. I mean, even that's kind of been happening for a long time anyway, because before that, if you wanted to communicate with somebody, you needed to use what? A phone line or a fax machine. And that also went through a telecommunications company. So
TMTG and Apple themselves did not respond to a request for comment, but a source familiar with the matter confirmed that it will be the 21st of January is the planned launch date of the app.
okay. let's just, I was curious because you mentioned photos, so I just want to show a couple here real quick.
Oh yeah, you
I
got
don't know
some.
if you've seen any yet. These are just what I found on, Google. I don't know how reliable this is given how much Google loves Trump, but it looks like this
These
is,
are all the images I saw too.
is it? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's see here.
But I mean, it's still got another like month and a half to go.
I
before
guess
it's
there's really
ready,
not much
so
in here.
who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, exactly. So it looks pretty interesting. It looks like that's like it was saying, it's basically the same thing as Twitter. Where's that one I was looking at? There it is. Looks like this is Truth Social potentially, and this is Twitter. Not sure if it's true or not, but there you have it. So cool.
Rick James.
Rick James, baby. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Ryan.
My pleasure.
We will potentially have some news for this weekend, so keep your eyes peeled to the ground. Don't forget to check the links in the description. We got our Vigilant News Telegram channel going up, so don't forget to subscribe to that.
Send us all your money, all your belongings, all your love.
That's right. We need all of those things. Yeah, definitely we could use the support. Appreciate any support you've given. Don't forget to check the links for that. And with that, we'll see you on the flip side. Take care, everybody.